Good afternoon, everyone. I want to begin by acknowledging that we are located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory and traditional homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Our relationship is based on a series of peace and friendship treaties that date back with the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown back to 1725. As treaty beneficiaries, we recognize that we are all treaty people. I want to welcome you here to Nova Scotia Community College Burridge campus. I'm Mary Thompson. I'm the principal here at Burridge for Yarmouth. I'm also the principal for our Digby community site and our Shelburne campus. We are so thrilled to be the venue for this extremely important discussion today. We are co-hosting with the Town of Yarmouth, Efficiency Nova Scotia, and the Western Regional Enterprise Network. As we all know, housing is a major issue, and I'm going to tell you, for those of us from NSCC, we know that student housing is a particular challenge, but it's not just students, it's everyone. Today, the Yarmouth Community Housing Forum is a proactive step to dealing with this issue, addressing this challenge, and coming up with creative ways to handle it. So thank you so much for being here. Now, just before we get started, and I kind of consider this as my airline speech, so I will go into my airline voice. In the unlikely event that we should have an emergency, folks, you will see that the exit sign is over to your right or over to your left, or your right, my left. And please join at the door, and one of our NSC staff will lead you to safety. That's not going to happen, but we want to tell you about it. Washrooms to this door down the hall is a men's washroom. To this door and out is a women's washroom, and upstairs we have a gender neutral washroom. If you are a smoker, the only smoking area on our campus is out through the corridor, out to the back parking lot, and you'll see a shed there. Again, we want to welcome you. Welcome, bienvenue, epchilase. Now we're going to hear from Pam Mood, our mayor. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name's Pam Mood. I'm the mayor of this beautiful town of Yarmouth, here on Mi'kma'ki, the unceded lands of the Mi'kmaq. Welcome, everyone, to the Yarmouth County Housing Forum. There's going to be so much stuff that you're going to be able to take in and actually give out to those that are in attendance. Now, I'm going to tell you that I think you all understand that housing is an issue across the entire country. I think we can all agree on that. And I'm thrilled that you're in the room actually thinking about how you can make a difference to turn things around. So let me explain something. It's not the municipal governments like the town that actually look after housing, but what we do is our job is we set the table. I'm pretty good at that. So we're going to set the table as the town. And we're going to say to you, how can we help you come to the table? What can we do to make things easier? Well, of course, a little bit of greenery never hurts. Coffee never hurts. I'm sure you've got that today. So we set the table and we help in any way that we can to bring developers and homeowners, property owners, and everyone else in the room like you today together, and we'll guide you through how you can help turn the housing crisis around. So thank you for coming. I hope you have a fantastic day. I certainly wish I could be there, but I'm out of town. Enjoy your day, and we're looking forward to what it will bring.
Alrighty, thank you so much everyone for being here and for the messages. We're going to go into a panel on considerations for housing next. So I'm going to introduce all of our panelists to come on up and take a seat. As they get settled, my name is Charity Carr. I am the Business Development Manager for Efficiency Nova Scotia. I've been there for about 10 years now. And for the last 8 years, I've been helping folks create affordable housing. Whether it's retrofitting existing affordable housing so they can afford to keep operating it, whether it's turning old community buildings into housing or houses into rooming houses, houses that are no longer needed. We've seen that a lot in some of the smaller rural communities. So I've had the opportunity to work with some of these wonderful folks on those projects over the years. And I'm going to, before we do anything else, give them a lovely intro. Okay, so we have Kevin Russell on the line. Kevin is joining us remotely. He's with the Investment Property Owners, and I'll do a full intro in a moment. So first, here to my right, we have Marielle Toole. She is the Western Region Senior Caseworker with the Nova Scotia Department of Growth and Development, formerly Municipal Affairs and Housing, formerly Housing. So if anyone missed that in the last few elections, it's now Growth and Development. So the Housing Division of the Department of Growth and Development offers programs to help low and modest income Nova Scotians pay their rent, as well as maintain and adapt their homes. Other programs encourage and fund the development of new affordable housing stock, as well as helping community housing organizations acquire and maintain affordable community housing. Okay. Next, we have Serge McCauley with Malte Homes. And Malte Homes is a modular home and metal roofing and siding manufacturing company. It's based in Church Point, Nova Scotia, and the company builds small prefabricated homes using high-quality materials that meet or exceed current building standards for structural construction and for energy efficiency. The company also manufactures standing seam non-exposed fastener metal roofing and siding, both for use on its own homes as well as for resale. Okay, next down the line, we have Martin Beck. Martin is a town planner with the Town of Yarmouth, for those of you who have not yet met him. He is a Czech national with nearly 20 years of professional experience in urban planning in Canada. He holds a degree in community design from Dalhousie School of Planning and Architecture. He spent 16 years with the City of Calgary, where he worked in a wide range of planning and leadership roles, which included supporting the Calgary Planning Commission, Development Appeal Board, City Council, or the Calgary's Climate Change and Energy Team. He returned to Nova Scotia in 2024 and now serves as a planner with the Town of Yarmouth, where his goal is to simplify existing planning and approvals process and facilitate development. Last down the line, we have got Daniel Vanderkroek. Daniel is the co-founder of Argyle Mist, bringing sustainable communities together, living in place with purpose. From its humble beginnings decades ago, Argyle Mist was founded on a simple yet powerful vision to seek out and shape spaces that uplift communities. What started as a search for viable properties has evolved into a deeper mission, creating environments where people not only live, but truly thrive. At Argyle Mist, we partner with individuals and communities to design and build sustainable, high-efficiency living spaces that prioritize well-being, connection, and resilience. Our approach blends thoughtful design with innovative technologies, ensuring that every project reflects both environmental responsibility and human-centered values. As a company rooted in eco-conscious and high-tech development, we're dedicated to revitalizing existing infrastructure and crafting new accommodations that support the evolving needs of our communities. Together, we're building more spaces, we're nurturing places where life flourishes. And last but most certainly not least, on the call here today, as you can see on the screen, we also have Kevin Russell, who is the Executive Director with the Rental Housing Providers of Nova Scotia. Established in 1978, the Rental Housing Providers of Nova Scotia is the collective voice representing Nova Scotia rental housing providers. They currently have over 160 members who have over 50,000 units under management. The primary focus is providing members with advocacy, education, and member services programs. So everyone, let's give a warm welcome to our panelists today, and we'll launch into the questions. All right, so to kick things off, we have some prepared questions for each panel member, but I'm going to invite anyone on the panel, that includes Kevin on the call, that if you have anything to add or you want to join in, feel free, just put your hand up because we are sharing a mic today. Okay. So let's get started. We all know, and everyone today is probably in this room because we know that housing is a community issue, right? And how do we know that? Well, I can say from personal experience, it's affecting my family, my friends, my coworkers, and with 3 teenagers about to graduate in the next 3 years, it most certainly is going to be affecting our children. A lot of the people that are in this room today are wondering how they can help. how they could perhaps have a secondary rent out rooms in their home, or make a secondary suite, or have an additional dwelling unit if they have enough land. So we have folks here in the room today that can give you the really important information about how you can move forward. So before we even get into the money side or the financial considerations, it's important to know what you can do with what you have. Okay. So the first question is going to go to Martin, town planner here in Yarmouth. So what we're looking for Martin is kind of an overview on the town land use bylaws, building codes, and permits, things that you need to consider if you want to add a secondary suite in your home or perhaps a backyard suite. So we're going to turn it over to Martin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for having me. It's great to see so many faces, some of which I actually do know, which is great to say, together with this wonderful event. As Charity mentioned, I'm hoping to provide some basic information and understanding about some of the permits requirements or process requirements and basic sort of information that relates to renewal of existing assets or development of new. I just want to say quickly that none of the stuff that I'm going to say or try to say should be considered as a professional planning advice. This is really just a general overview, and anytime any of you or anyone else want to know more, we always encourage you to give us a call and be happy to help you. So with that said, I think the last piece related to permits. So whether it is retrofitting existing building or building a new suite or a unit, you always going to need a development and building permit. Pretty safe bet there. Chances are that some situations may need rezoning change or zoning change as well, or potentially development agreement, which are more complex planning processes. But for most part, in Town of Yarmouth, the typical R1 property, and there's about 1,700 of them in town out of, I believe, 22 residential properties in total, can accommodate up to 2 dwelling units. So provided you own a single lot with a single detached home, there is ability for you to add a secondary or accessory suite or add a second unit to your residence. That would be sort of the basics about permits, a little bit about zoning as well. When it comes to safety, which is really one of the paramount issues when whether it's building new suites or retrofitting existing buildings, we always say the first step is to speak to a professional, whether it's with a town building official or your contractor. Safety is a critical piece, and whether, as I said, either of those two resources can assist and help. So that'll be step number one. Speak to somebody who knows what they're doing. There's plenty of folks like that around the town, from what I can see so far, and so that shouldn't be a problem. Step two would be talk to the town. We have some great folks we work with, always ready to and willing to assist with anything to do with really anything, including housing. Charity, I think I tweet or spoke quickly about some safety pieces and what to do there. I guess the other piece, before even thinking about doing anything, cost is always a big consideration when it comes down to building new or even retrofitting. And so before diving into permits and I guess, working with the town or getting too deep in the project, we always trying to influence folks to sort of start at the back end, trying to understand how much it's going to cost, what are the requirements you need to meet. And from there, if everything checks out, then come and speak to us about permits and things that are needed from a bylaw perspective or a codes perspective. I think that should generally cover it. Perhaps it doesn't, but I'm sure we can add later on.
No, I think, can you folks hear me all right? I'm pretty loud. Okay. No, I think that pretty much covers it from that perspective. And at the end of the day, we had some calls before this and chatted through what that would look like. And for me, it really is check with the town. If you're wondering, do I have enough room, right? Is this going to meet the fire code? Am I far enough away from other dwellings? Those are the things you can talk to with the town office and just get, your high level before you even get started. And then the next piece, as he's alluded to, is the finances. Is that money coming? What grants are available? What do we have federally? What do we have provincially? Right? What can we do and what can we bring to the table? So if you want to have housing or add housing, make affordable housing, that you can actually bring it together in a way that makes financial sense, right? And Muriel here is our expert with the Department of Growth and Development, and she's going to chat a little bit about some of the programs that they offer that can help if you're looking to do this kind of thing.
Take the mic. Thank you. My name is Muriel. I'm the senior caseworker with the Department of Growth and Development. Our office is located in Middleton, but we do cover all of Western. So we do service Yarmouth County. So our two biggest programs around assisting with renting or providing housing is, we call it rental RAP. So it's the Rental Rehabilitation Assistance Program. So that program is available to landlords. So you have to be a landlord already, and you must own a rental building. Or it could be a single unit, it could be a building with several units. The units don't need to be occupied, but they can be. You submit the application, and the way you would qualify for the program is under the understanding that if your units aren't occupied, then you will be required to rent to tenants within a certain income level and not charge over median market rent. If your units are occupied, your current tenants must fit within the parameters of our program. The funding is provided under the form of a forgivable loan. We can do up to $24,000 per unit. These items or the repairs would be pre-approved by an inspector from our office. So you would apply based on the paperwork provided, you would qualify. That's when the inspector would go out. And it's really then that the inspector has gone out that they can identify exactly if we're able to help you and specifically with what repair. We do a lot of health and safety structural repairs. We do a wide variety of repairs for our rental program. As I mentioned, the funding is under the form of a forgivable loan. So that means that you have to agree, we make the payments for you after you've had the funding, but you have to agree to an operating agreement to continue to rent to tenants within the income levels and not charge over median market rent for up to 15 years. And all that information will be provided to you before funding's approved and there's paperwork for you to sign and all that good stuff. Our newest program is the Secondary Backyard Suite Incentive Program. We've had a lot of information put out to the public about this program, and it's a program available to homeowners to build a secondary suite. They can be called something else, right? What are they called?
Accessory suites.
Accessory suites,
Dwelling units.
accessory dwelling units,
Cases, just a secondary dwelling unit.
Second dwelling unit. So we call them, the program's called Secondary Backyard Suite Incentive Program. So that program's available to a homeowner to build a secondary suite on the property that they occupy. So it can't be on a property that you rent or a property that doesn't already have a home on it. It has to be on your primary piece of land. And we provide funding of up to, it's 50% of the cost, a maximum of $40,000. And when it comes to the tenants, there's two different streams of tenants that you can have in that unit. We have the supportive living stream, where if you're looking to support or have a tenant that is a senior that you're related to, or a person with a disability that you're looking to support that you're related to, then we don't get into the income levels of your tenant or how much you have to charge for rent. If you're looking to rent to the general public, that's when we get involved with your tenant's income levels and the rent requirements, which are different than our rental RAP program. So I'm going to be here this afternoon. If you have specific questions about the rent amounts and the income amounts for each program, please come see me. I think that's all for now. Yeah.
Can I see, is there, show of hands, is there anyone here in the room that's interested in renting out a room in their house? Anyone? Wow, okay. I see so much of that early when I'm doing these sessions. I'm just curious, so if someone did want to consider that, let's say, you know, your kids have moved out or you've got an unfinished basement that you think could be housing, what does that look like from, you know, your standpoint, from maybe a funding or grant point of view?
So we do also have funding available. It's equivalent to our rental rehabilitation program for rooming home. So if you're looking to do repairs to your home and you're renting out rooms, we do have funding available. It's less than our rental program. It's up to 16,000. The process is the same. You have to apply. You have to get an inspection done by our inspector, and it kind of goes from there. The operating agreement is less. I think it's a maximum of 8 years, but you do have to sign an operating agreement that you will continue to rent to tenants within the income levels and the rent amounts set by our program. And you can also, it could be a self-contained like rooming home where you don't live in the home, but the owner can also be living in the home as well. That's an option as well.
Perfect. Do you have any comments on that? And we've had some folks ask about, you know, putting kitchens in if they want to rent a room or anything like that. What should folks be thinking about?
So just to draw a very clear distinction between a separate dwelling unit, which secondary suite would be, and then renting a room, which usually doesn't come with a kitchen, which really is a critical piece for it to be considered dwelling unit. So in our context of a land use bylaw is boarding or rooming homes. We don't really need any development permit for up to 3 rooms. So if you want to rent up to 3 rooms within your existing home, you don't need a development permit. However, and I'm looking at our building official and our fire inspectors at the back there, a building permit is needed. As you can imagine, most of these homes where folks are trying to repurpose for boarding rooms are older, and so the sort of the complexities and associated costs with upgrading the rooms and the space to accommodate a non-traveling public can be significant. But that doesn't mean we want to scare you. We're just saying, again, check with professional and check with the town about what those requirements at the building permit for boarding and rooming houses or homes are. Going forward, because right now we don't need a development permit for 3 or less. If you need 3 or more, more than 3, you need a fairly extensive process that involves council and myself, or a development officer, and we're looking to streamline that. So we essentially want to introduce a bit more flexibility and add the number of rooms that one can get through just a simplified process and development permit without the involvement of city council or myself as a planner. So that is to come within the next couple of months, I believe, Natalie. So that would be my add-on on boarding homes.
Now, even though no one here wants to rent a room out in their house, should probably ask if someone is thinking about renting out a room or making a secondary suite or an additional dwelling unit or backyard suite. I'm gonna look at Muriel. Maybe what kind of considerations should we be thinking about what should be included in rent?
So as I mentioned, we have different rent for our funding. If you're accessing our funding, we have different rent requirements for different programs. If you want to know the specific amounts that are set today, you can come see me. But our rent amounts would include the utilities. So it's not that the landlord must include the utilities in their rent. It's just that their rent plus the utilities could not surpass the amounts we've established. And the rent amounts change by how many bedrooms are occupied in the unit.
Perfect, thank you. All right, thanks everyone. Thanks, Muriel. So in this context, we now know kind of some of the background considerations, right? Do I have enough room? Who should I talk to about any of the bylaws or building codes or anything else that we're enforcing? But also, there's a lot of demand in this space, and even folks who perhaps weren't thinking about it before, maybe you'll change your mind by the end of the session. But we're seeing a lot of movement in the sector from folks that are, renting year round, renting seasonally, Airbnbs. We're seeing a lot of multi-generational living where we didn't before. But if you're thinking about becoming a landlord, there is no one better that knows all of those considerations than Kevin Russell. He is with the Rental Housing Providers Association of Nova Scotia. And just have a few questions for Kevin on kind of what it means to be a landlord and how to protect yourself if you're thinking of going that route. So, Kevin, hopefully you can hear us okay and we can hear you. So just for context, Kaylee worked really hard to make sure this was all working before we got in here. So props to her for getting that going. Now, out of curiosity, while we're waiting here, we're going to have some time for questions at the end. But nobody put their hand up when I said they were thinking about renting a room. Do we have any folks who are here because they're in the nonprofit space? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, 4 or 5. Do you have any folks who are interested in maybe subsidies or grants that are available? Yeah, okay, a few more hands. Anyone want to shout out what was really burning? What they wanted to hear about today? No? Kevin, can you try again, please?
Sure. Hello, everyone.
Perfect. We can hear you now.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, Kevin. Well, thank you so much and for your patience. So we're gonna get back to your question and say, so let's say folks here are interested in providing rental housing. We'll just kind of put this in a nutshell. Whether they want to provide a room or a secondary suite in their homes or a backyard suite, what are the top considerations that they should be thinking about if they're thinking about becoming a landlord?
Well, there's a number of considerations, Charity, and it's very important to do your homework and make sure you're fully up to date on the Residential Tenancies Act. That is the act that guides not only landlords but also tenants. So it's very, very important to understand the act. I take a lot of calls during the year from small rental property owners who are experiencing issues with a tenant. And when you peel back the onion, they don't consider themselves as being landlords, and they don't realize they're in a business that operates in a regulatory environment and with government regulations, and there are tenant rights. So, in the eyes of the government, residential tenancies, and under the act, once money is exchanged for accommodations, whether it's renting to someone a coach, a room, a backyard suite, or a basement apartment, you are considered a landlord. And the individual who you accepted the money from becomes a tenant, and they have protections under the Residential Tenancies Act. And that's even including family members. So just because you have maybe renting to your brother, your sister, or mother-in-law, they become tenants. So again, just have the groundwork and understand the Residential Tenancies Act.
All right, thanks, Kevin. What about some other considerations? Maybe if folks are trying to get started, rental agreements or insurance, anything like that. What does that look like from your end?
Well, insurance, it's difficult to get into rates, but what you must do if you're considering the rent, you must advise your insurance provider that you're having you're changing the use of your property, to rent out to people. And nothing may happen after that, but you have that obligation to advise the insurance company. Not doing that, you may find out something may happen on your property, and they may void your policy and not cover the liability. So, ensure you discuss this with your insurance providers. As as far as rental agreements, they are recommended. However, if they're not, even if you have a verbal agreement, that becomes a rental agreement, and but it's much better to have it down in print so that if you happen to have to go to residential tenancies, there's some basis. There's no guessing. You have your evidence there is that there is a rental agreement in place. There is a standard residential tenancy lease that's offered by the province that you can download from the residential tenancies website. So it's highly recommended you do that. And you should also, when you're there, or produce what they call your schedules, your C&D schedules, and your addendums to the lease. This is where you put in your landlord rules. What are the expectations of the tenant? Landlord rules have to be reasonable, and they have to be fair, and they have to apply to everyone in the unit. You can't have separate rules for separate tenants. So that's and that's it. Like, for example, a permittable landlord rule would be to put in no smoking rules, whether it's cannabis, tobacco, vaping, whether you can smoke in the unit or on the property. If you don't want any smoking, make sure it's in the landlord rules. What would not be acceptable is restricting, say, use of the kitchen or other facilities, amenities on the property. So that'd be difficult. One thing I may want to add back to insurance for a second is make sure your tenant has tenant insurance. Tenant insurance is very, very important in case something does happen. You can subjugate the damages to the tenant through their insurance company. And what you can do with tenant insurance in the landlord rules is put a clause in there that first off, they must have it, and they must produce the renewal on the anniversary date of the lease or of the insurance policy, so you always know it's in place. Those are just some of the small things there. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Kevin. So basically, it sounds like, well, for any of these things, for most of them, we're going straight to the Residential Tenancies Act to make sure we understand what's in there, hey?
Yeah, and I must say the residential tenancies over the years have made some much improvement in their online guides, landlord guides and tenant guides. So you don't have to get into the legal minutia of the act. You can basically, what you need to know would be in the guides, which is an easy to read language.
Right. No, that makes sense. So in that act, because I haven't read it cover to cover, that's definitely more your jam. I've seen you in the news enough about it. If property owners are considering prospective tenants, what how can they effectively screen folks before they come in while still being fair and not asking any questions that would be, considered discriminatory?
Sure. I mean, I got to tell you, this is probably one of the most important things you can do is to do proper screening and make sure you have a process in place. I can tell you most of the people that call me, well, I had a good gut feeling about this person, and you know what? It just didn't work out. And when you have a situation like that, it takes a long time to resolve the process, to resolve the situation. But what you should, and this is best practices, you do landlord checks. You call the previous landlords. You do employment reference checks. You can obtain a credit report. I mean, that's a bit of an expense, but that's the gold standard. You may not want to get a credit report for every applicant you have for your unit, but one that you're seriously considering, you may want to expend the money on that because it could save you a lot of grief. You could actually review the social media just to see if they pop up any place, and you may get a Facebook where they're partying and whatever. You may want to take something like that into consideration. So that's something you can do. And what you can't do, you can't ask personal questions. It's prohibited under the human rights legislation. You can't ask about age. You can't ask about gender identity or health status or hobbies. But what a tenant screening is based on is the applicant's ability to pay, the results of reference and credit checks.
Thanks, Kevin. So in the interest of time, just one last really quick question before we move on to Serge. So if someone was thinking about, as we said, renting a room, doing something of that nature to provide housing, do they have to set up a business to be a landlord if you're renting to Uncle Bob or even someone else?
You don't have to set up a business. You don't have to incorporate. What you uh, but you do have to report your rental income with CRA, and you do that by using a CRA form T776, Statement of Real Estate Rentals. So that's a must. But again, you don't have to set up a formal business or incorporate.
Okay, perfect. We are going to move along quickly here then to Serge. So what we're looking for here is kind of a builder's perspective on, what folks can do, how they can finance it, maybe what they want on quotes. So Serge, I'm going to hand this over in a moment once I finish speaking. But for folks who are interested in backyard suites, what provides the best return on investment for rental properties in terms of what multi-homes offers?
Thank you. So I think one of the first things that people can look at to maximize the return would be to leverage services that are existing on the main suite. So if you can leverage septic and water services, for example, this can reduce significantly the capital cost of setting up a backyard suite. So that can really increase the return on investment. Another thing that I would ask people to consider is to go with a modular home instead of an on-site traditional build. Modular homes can save some costs, especially on the front end, because there's no real design fees or architectural fees to pay to basically build you out a plan for your unit. So some of the other savings can also be that there's typically no cost overruns in a prefabricated home or modular home, because there's a set price once you sign the contract, and the builder typically has all those materials on hand already to build the unit. So there's no real surprises along the way that can occur in a traditional build. We include a full set of plans with all our units. They're engineer stamped. We also include a concrete foundation plan that's engineer stamped as well. So those are all cost savings that you can gain from a modular home instead of a on-site traditional build.
Perfect. Yeah, I don't know what the noise bylaws are around here too, but it's nice not to be bothering your neighbors all the time. I know I live in Bedford, and houses are built this far apart. Yeah, it's fun to do anything. So if someone is interested in building a backyard suite, where would they get started?
I think the best place for anyone to start would be their local municipal or town office, so they can get a feel for what they might be able to do. They should discuss that project with a planner and building official there to see if they've got the appropriate lot size to have a suite, if they've got existing services that are adequate for capacity, zoning, if that can be done. I'll get all those questions answered on the front end before they kind of start planning what the project's going to look like. After that would be budget, determining what your potential budget might be, and that would go in line with your bank or other lenders, and also reaching out to grant programs to see what's out there that might be available to fund your build. Step after that would likely be design, work with a contractor or a prefabricated home builder to kind of see what you're looking for. And I think it's really important for folks to consider what the goal of the build or suite might be now and in the future. Are you building this unit right now for a parent or a child, or is it for someone else, and what might it be used for in the future? You know, how do you ensure that the money you're going to spend now is still going to get you a return in the future when potentially that, you know, child or parent or whatever moves out of that suite?
Now, I know you have, you mentioned you have a few different models that folks could choose from. Um, if someone wanted to get started with you from front to back, they decide they want to build, they want to put a backyard unit in, what kind of build time does that look like from your perspective, from modular?
So currently we have three styles of models. So we have a bachelor style, a 1 bedroom, and a 2 bedroom. So those are all set and ready to go. The plans are done. You know, it's just more of a finding specifications on what type of colors or finishes you may want in interior. And the process after those things are all decided will typically be 4 to 6 weeks, and then the unit would be ready for delivery.
So 2 month turnaround?
Yeah, that's excluding obviously the site work, pad prep, and setting up utilities, Nova Scotia Power, everything of that nature. But the actual build process on our end is 1 to 2 months. So the bachelor style and the 1 bedroom are 420 square feet, and the 2 bedroom unit is 560 square feet.
Okay. I will bring that back over here because I did have a question teed up for efficiency programs, but that's only just been released from Efficiency Nova Scotia. I'm going to speak a little bit about it in a few moments when we get into presentations. But Nova Scotia has launched something called Energy Forward New Homes, where on top of those grant programs that we talked about with Muriel and otherwise, if you're building an energy efficient new home over 500 square feet that uses less than $500 a year in energy, you can qualify for up to $25,000 towards your build, whether that's a build for you or someone else. So it's something to keep in mind if we're talking about stacking this funding, and you know, every little piece of the puzzle that comes together makes it a little bit easier to build.
Is that 25,000 per unit or 25,000 per project?
25,000 per unit, and there's a maximum of five units per person or builder per year. I'm going to hold the rest of the questions until the end, just so we can get everyone wrapped up here. And I have a little presentation that my communications department made me, so hopefully that explains enough to you. But we are going to move over to our last but not least, Daniel. So Daniel has, well, should probably read it. Daniel's been working in the affordable housing space, and he actually has a conversion project that is on the go. And I've mentioned this to a lot of folks, especially the nonprofits that are here in the room, that I've been around the province helping folks convert existing buildings into housing, whether it's an old hospital or penitentiary, a silo, a barn, you name it, we're turning it into housing everywhere we can, because it's always cheaper to use what you've got. Okay. And Daniel knows this because he's working on a project like that right now. Now, that's my opinion on it, but I'd like to hear Daniel's thoughts. So, Daniel, do you believe that retrofitting older buildings is a viable solution for meeting modern energy efficiency standards, or should we be focusing more on new builds?
Thank you, Charity. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Absolutely. I think that retrofitting old buildings is probably a gem in the rough. In the past, we have demolished and torn down buildings to erect new projects or just new builds on land. I think from an architectural and a design perspective, there's something very special about doing a conversion or retrofitting an old building, bringing it up to the energy standards of today. It can be daunting. It's kind of like Napoleon said in the Battle of Love, it's better to run away. And sometimes you want to run away from some projects, but if you stick to it, it can be something very special. So as a landlord, and I would say to new possible landlords or developers, that doing conversion projects is a very beautiful thing. It often can be quite cheaper than erecting a new building. But yeah, it's also goes to the point that Muriel said about construction and noise as well. If you have an old project and instead of a new build, it can be less interrupting for the community as well. So I think from that perspective, it's retrofitting is a great option. Yeah.
Okay, so what about backyard suites? We're seeing a lot of movement in small field housing for this kind of rental unit. From an infrastructure and cost and timing perspective, what does that look like?
We haven't done any backyard suites yet. However, talking to Serge a little bit earlier today, I think it's an incredible option. I think if you can do the site prep and connect to existing septic or water, making it a little bit more financially viable, and working with prefab that Serge and this company provide, I think it's a phenomenal way to get into the market, add some more equity to your property, and also like for young and up and coming homeowners, not only is it something that can help subsidize a mortgage or other costs, but also a bridge to possibly becoming a landlord, or actually like Kevin said, becoming a landlord, right? If you have even your parents or family member in there, and vice versa.
So what I'll add to that is that I'm seeing more and more of partnerships with projects like this, where we've got someone like Daniel who's picked up a property, maybe a municipal property, a house, something, and it comes with excess land, right? So we are seeing the pairing. We're, retrofitting the building that we have, making it efficient, making it comfortable, making it livable, and also we have the space to add additional dwelling units and have really mixed housing. So with that, I have been given the hook. So we're going to wrap up this session. We've got a couple minutes for folks to grab a quick refreshment, run to the facilities. And if anyone has any questions for the panelists, I'll keep them here for a couple minutes and answer any questions you might have. Go ahead.
No one mentioned tax implications, property tax, for having a backyard suite or whatever. Can you just, anyone speak to that?
Who wants to take that one? Kevin? Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Yes, it's a real good question. So just one thing to note, as you probably know, for example, in Town of Yarmouth, we are not specifically responsible for your assessment of the property, and so that's really a good question for province. They may offer some examples of how property assessment would have changed, between not having and having a suite, whether it's with an existing building or elsewhere on a property. So I think that would be my recommendation. Start there. I think that some of the costs and discussion around generally costs sort of would generally allude to what that may look like from assessment perspective. I think simple math relatively, but as I said, I think province or phone call to province may be a good place to start. Not sure how helpful that is. You probably knew that already.
Like the best person to help you with that is your accountant. All right. So any other questions? All right, let's take one in the back.
I don't know if you guys know this, but if you were renting a room in your house, what does that do for capital gains when it comes to small? Is it considered, yeah, it's no longer principal residence, that component, because that's the fund that
I thought about that a little bit when we talked about the difference between being a landlord as a sort of renting a property or renting a room. Short answer is I don't really know the difference, because I do not know whether by you renting a room within your principal house, you're actually changing the use as far as the tax law. So again, that's probably a real good question for accountant, but can confirm that. I mean, if you do have a rental property, that's obviously not your primary residence. That's very simple, right? Or if you move out and you make your former primary residence a rental, then it changes use, which then kicks in a rental income. But that was going through my mind, the difference between renting a entire building or home versus renting a room, which is quite often and common in a place like Yarmouth. So that is something maybe we can look into and maybe put on our website as we get more information. I'm looking at Natalie.
Great suggestion. Yeah, that was something that was brought up, and we were actually hoping to have a landlord or someone who had a secondary suite in their home here to speak to some of that today, but we weren't able to secure anyone. But I think that's a really great question that we can leave with Natalie. So with that, let's give a big round of applause to our panelists. Thank you so much. You folks are off the hot seat now if you want to exit stage left here, and we will start in with the presentations. Folks, if you need that second coffee, now's the time.
Coming today. My name is Kaylee Skinner. I am a staff member at NSCC and have been graciously asked to MC the presentations. We have a variety of presentations today to help you learn more about housing options for when you're in the networking period at the end. To begin, I would like to welcome the Town of Yarmouth Economic Development Officer, Natalie Smith. Natalie Smith is the Economic Development Officer for the Town of Yarmouth, a position she has held for over a decade. During her tenure, she's been instrumental in advancing key initiatives outlined in the town's downtown revitalization blueprint plan, including the successful implementation of the Facade Improvement Program. Most recently, Natalie has played a leading role in developing and executing the town's housing action plan under the Federal Housing Accelerator Fund, and working to address critical housing needs and support sustainable growth moving forward. Please welcome Natalie to the stage.
Thank you, Kaylee. Hi, everybody. Happy 1st of May. Right. So I have a 7-minute and a 2-minute warning, so I'm going to have to flip through some slides, but I know you're going to get it. So first, let's start with some great news. So in 2023, the Government of Canada launched the Housing Accelerator Fund program that supports local governments in creating transformational change to boost housing supply. We were very lucky, and we were awarded in our second round $2.3 million to carry out our action plan. So between, this is to give you a little bit of background on the needs. Between 2016 and 2021, our population in the town grew by 5%, which is around 311 new citizens, and that matches the provincial growth. It's actually close to the national growth as well. At the end of 2022, based on a housing needs assessment that was done by the province, there's a gap between housing demand and the available supply of 145 units, and that includes both market and non-market. Projections suggest that with population growth, we will need 335 units by 2027. That's not that far away, including the existing shortage of 145 units. And by 2032, that will grow to 485 units. With the HAF investment, we aim to achieve a housing supply growth of 119 net new residential units over the next 3 years. And what net new residential means, that's new construction or new units, subtract demolition. The key objective of this forum is to provide information to you on how you can contribute to the supply of new housing and go beyond the growth target of 119 units. And I have to say, we are well on our way, and we just need your additional support. So the HAF created a housing action plan, and with that, we have identified 5 key initiatives. Initiative number 1 will speak to surplus lands that the town owns that we want to identify and dedicate for affordable housing. So what is a surplus lands program? So we will be working with nonprofit groups to use the extra land for affordable housing. This program will make it easier to find and prepare land for new homes. There's some steps that we're going to have to do in order to identify those lands. We're going to find the best lands that would be suitable for affordable housing. We're going to set some rules for selling the town-owned land, so we'll create a policy. And we're going to make sure that the land is construction ready, looking at zoning. Does it have services? Is it close to amenities? Is it walkable to transit? I think it might be faster for me to look at the screen. So the goals of that initiative will be, number one, is to increase the number of homes available in the town, support affordable housing and create diverse communities, and help build complete walkable neighborhoods with easy access to amenities. The second initiative is around parking. I know you all enjoy the subject, and it's really to make parking easier to build more homes. Our challenge today is that we know parking can be a problem. We have a requirement for parking space per the number of dwelling units on a lot. And this causes a lot of issues with many on-street parking places being used. It just causes congestion and sometimes in conflict with the business owners. So we're reviewing how to reduce or remove parking rules that could make room for more housing, but some people might not support the idea. So that's, again, we're going to be doing lots of engagement. The goal of this initiative is to create a parking plan that makes it easier to reduce or remove parking requirements for a new home. So our planner, Marty, will be leading that, who spoke earlier. And I'll just briefly touch on, what the plan might include is us reviewing residential parking permits, use of existing parking spaces, managing parking demand, and we have to look at winter road maintenance. Oh, she's got me there. Okay, we're going to flip through. So the next steps, by the way, this will all be available to you after the session, is to create the marketing plan and to get your input. Third initiative is making housing easier to build, and that's really creating new rules around our land use bylaw. And this is really, the town has found that some of the rules make it hard to approve new housing, and we're talking about our municipal plan / our land use bylaw. So we have maybe in some cases strict zoning bylaws. Special agreements are required for some developments. Marty alluded to that. Large lot size requirements, limits on certain types of housing, and sometimes our rules can be confusing to navigate. So what we hope to achieve is allow more types of housing within more residential or all residential neighborhoods, simplify approvals for larger development, and reduce and remove parking requirements for homes and make them more affordable. So what this plan proposes, so again, it's continuing on the other items, reduce the lot size requirements, investigate looking at the height restrictions. So currently in some zones it's 35 feet or 50 feet. Perhaps, that should be higher, or maybe it's a different formula. Expand the areas for care homes and similar housing types, and clarify rules for smaller homes or extra units. So the next steps is update the town rules and bylaws that will include some of these changes. You will be engaged as part of the process and monitor our progress to ensure the changes work as planned. Fourth initiative is streamlining housing approvals. So I'm going to just make one statement and then we can skip the slides. We want to make it so that when you come to Town Hall, it's easy for you to navigate our permitting process. The end game is to get you to a building permit, get you to get the inspections done, get your final and occupancy, then a new dwelling unit's available. So essentially, we're looking at all elements of that process, whether it's the use of technology, looking at our permitting documentation, how we communicate, and make sure that's more efficient. Gets me to Initiative 5. So Initiative 5 is around incentives. So this is where we are looking at how we encourage growth and attract investment by offering special benefits to make housing projects easier and appealing. So the goal of the program is to help developers of affordable housing support community-focused goals, address specific housing needs, specifically affordable homes and mixed-use developments, and attract outside investors. Sometimes you need new money to come into your community, and then promote the program. So the benefits of the program will be, obviously, we want to increase the number of units being built and incentivize affordable housing units, improve public spaces and infrastructure, attract outside investment, and provide less risk for developers, making it easy for them. So the next step is we are working on launching incentive programs that will start to come out to the public as a part of our process. You'll see that late May into June, July. And then we'll promote it certainly to all of you and our NGO networks, and we'll monitor progress. So how you can stay in touch. So the most important thing is you're going to be overwhelmed with information today. I would highly recommend at the back, we've got some QR codes, but you'll be able to have access. Keep in touch with us by going to our Get Involved site. We have a housing resource hub on our website that has a lot of information to help you, whether you're a renter, landlord looking to build, and subscribe to the town's alertable system. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Natalie. And I forgot to mention earlier, we will not be having questions during our presentations. All of our presenters are going to have booths at the back so that you can ask your questions in a more intimate way. Next up, we are very thankful to have the Nova Scotia Department for Growth and Development Program Manager, Affordable Housing, Roy Medina, come up. Housing Division of the Department of Growth and Development offers programs to help low and modest income Nova Scotians pay their rent, as well as maintain and adapt their homes. Other programs encourage and fund the development of new and affordable housing stock, as well as helping community housing organizations acquire and maintain affordable community housing. Thank you very much.
Hi, everyone. I'm Roy, Program Manager, Affordable Housing with the province. I'm going to present a brief description of all the housing programs. Housing now is part of the Department of Growth and Development. The down payment assistance program helps Nova Scotians who pre-qualify for an insured mortgage to buy their first home. It's a loan, interest-free, up to 5% of the purchase price of the new home.
You need to hold the mic.
Sorry. Yes.
Take it right out of the
Okay. So the next one is a very popular one. It's the Secondary and Backyard Suite Incentive Program. It helps homeowners to create supportive housing for family members or affordable housing for tenants. It's a forgivable loan, up to 50% of the eligible project costs, capped at 40%. Now, if you are wondering if you acquire your home via the down payment, if you can apply for this one, yes. The only thing, you need to live in this home at least for 12 months in a row. The Housing Repair Program provides funding for emergency health and safety repairs. It's available to homeowners who may be needing electrical, heating, plumbing, structural, or fire safety. And the last one for homeowners is the Accessible Housing Program. It provides funding to help homeowners undertake adaptations to improve home accessibility, who may be eligible if you are living with a permanent disability or if you have experienced diminished abilities due to age. It's very important to know that to be eligible for the last two programs, your household income limit needs to be below the household income limits. And we have a table at the back, and my colleague Muriel and I will be happy to explain more detail about this information. The next two are for renters. We have the Canada Nova Scotia Targeted Housing Benefit. It's a rent benefit that provides renters with a monthly supplement to help pay their rent. If you are paying more than 40% of your gross household income on rent, you may be eligible. And also the supplement is based on the household size, total household income, and actual rent paid. And the last one for renters is the Survivors of Gender-Based Violence. It helps survivors of gender-based violence who have or are planning to leave their home due to violence. These two programs are for developers. The first one is the Land for Housing. It makes provincial-owned land available for housing developments that include affordable units. This program is offered to private and nonprofit, and you may want to check on the website which parcels of land are available. It changes. The next one is the Affordable Housing Development Program, or AHDP. It provides a forgivable loan to private and nonprofit developers for the construction of new housing, but also conversion. What this funding does is it helps the developers to reduce the loss of income, because some of these units are going to be affordable units. Now, in regards for the community housing, we have a few programs as well. The first one is the Community Housing Acquisition Program, or CHAP. It's a loan to preserve and expand supply affordability. The next one is the CHIRP, or the Community Housing Infrastructure and Repair. It provides funding for capital repairs or existing residential buildings and is a forgivable loan. And the last one is the Community Housing Operation Support, or CHOS. It provides limited operation support via subsidies to help organizations with immediate need. We have two more other programs that are managed by the Community Housing Transformation Center. I will go very briefly because Amanda will explain these ones in more detail. The first one is a Community Housing Growth Fund. It's basically a seed money that is provided for nonprofits at the pre-development stage when they don't have access to the province programs or CMSC or credit union. And the next one is the Community Housing Capital Fund. It's mostly for nonprofits who are pre-qualified and will help them on that down payment. We have all those programs more in detail on the website. It's a very long name, but you just can Google housing programs Nova Scotia, and you will get to the site. And we have our table at the back. My colleague Muriel and I will be happy to explain you in more detail all of these programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Roy. I am very thankful to be able to introduce our next speaker, Community Housing Transformation Center Program Manager, Amanda Knight. The Community Housing Transformation Center's work aims to catalyze the preservation and growth of community housing so that it accounts for 20% of the housing market. It is dedicated to transform Canada's community housing sector by catalyzing partnerships, new ideas, and resources. The center offers funds, tools, and services to community housing stakeholders. So please welcome Amanda Knight.
Thank you, Kaylee. Hello, everyone.
As Kaylee said, I will not refer to the center's name in the full capacity because it is a mouthful. So if I say the center or CHTC, it is the Community Housing Transformation Center I'm speaking about. We do offer a number of funds, primarily grants, tools, and services to support community housing sector to enact social change, ensure economic sustainability, and bolster growth and efficiency. One of the funds we offer is the Nova Scotia Community Housing Growth Fund that Roy had also mentioned. So this provides money, tools, and expertise to increase the supply of affordable housing units throughout the province of Nova Scotia. This fund the province of Nova Scotia contributed $7.5 million to this fund, and the centre also contributed $825,000 to the fund. Under the Growth Fund, we do have a section for the Black Community Housing Fund. This was originally invested when the Department of Growth and Development, DGD, was DEMA, the Department of Municipal Affairs and Housing, so lots of acronyms, but they invested $2 million to support Black-led, Black-targeted, and Black serving organizations. The grant originally commenced in August of 2023, and it looks to address barriers in different Black communities that have unfavorable zoning, lack of municipal services such as water, different infrastructure, or that experienced environmental racism. Under the Growth Fund, we do have 3 funding streams. We've got capacity building, planning and pre-development, and research and innovation. The capacity building helps the community housing sector to strengthen skills. So an example of one of the capacity building grants could go towards an organization that was looking at creating their business plan or a strategic plan, a living document that really directs the organization in what their ultimate goals are in providing community housing. These grants are up to $50,000 and enables the organization to transform and grow. Planning and pre-development, very familiar with this grant. I actually sat as a volunteer with the center for about 1.5 years on the selection committee with the planning and pre-development portion of the grant. And it has evolved over the past number of years as well. So if an organization finds a piece of land or finds a property that they're looking at purchasing, you have different assessments or different things that you need to do research on, a BCA, a building condition assessment, an ECA, an environmental site assessment to make sure that it's fine for either development or purchase and being able to offer into housing. So we do offer grants on that pre-development stage. The research and innovation, this primarily is to support activities that will promote innovation and education within the sector, knowledge transfer items. We don't specifically get into ownership, but some research and innovation into potentially affordable home ownership that stays affordable into perpetuity. And who can apply? Basically, the same organizations can right across the board, with the only difference being under the research and innovation. If there are academics who are applying for this, they must have a partnership with a not-for-profit as well. We also offer the Community Housing Capital Fund. This fund was established in September of last year, where $3.524 million was contributed to this fund. We did just receive an additional top-up of $8 million from the province, so now we have $11.524 million in this fund, and this is to preserve existing affordable housing. So it is much more affordable to preserve what is there versus to build new housing, and this is to preserve the existing affordable housing from being lost to the for-profit or the private market. The capital funds help to remove barriers to acquisition. One of the big challenges with not-for-profits is obviously they don't have the equity down when they purchase a property. So this is a capital contribution to help them purchase a property. And it does support the acquisition of properties that are 5 units or more. So not single family, but 5 units or greater. And who can apply for this? This is a unique application process here. We have an applicant eligibility quiz. We do, again, not-for-profit housing providers, and we are looking for organizations that have had a minimum of 3 years of ownership and management experience with properties. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have already seen Charity, but we are excited to also welcome Charity again, Efficiency Nova Scotia Business Development Manager. Efficiency Nova Scotia is Canada's first electric efficiency utility, offering advice, technical assistance, and financial incentives to help Nova Scotian households and businesses reduce their energy costs. To date, our work, Efficiency Nova Scotia's work, has achieved over $4.8 billion in lifetime energy savings, including over $500 million for low-income homeowners and renters. Please welcome Charity.
Hey folks, I'm back. So we've heard a lot about money in the last few minutes. I'm going to keep it really light and fluffy, right? Efficiency has programming from everything from light bulbs and low income home updates. We've got business programs, industrial programs, but we've got a new one, and it's so new we don't even have proper slides for it yet. So I pulled something together here quick. It's called Energy Forward New Homes. So the idea behind this program, we're going to talk a little bit about what it is, what the qualifiers are, and what those incentives look like. I already gave it to you in a nutshell, so you got the Coles notes, but there's a bit more detail. So this is designed to be an incentive program for folks to build high efficiency homes, to have that really low cost of home operation and home ownership, both now and down the road. So the incentive program is for residential, new construction only, so Part 9 buildings, if you're in the building scene. And we actually have energy advisors who are contracted to help guide you through the process. So both home buyers and home builders are eligible to register homes under the program, and the incentives are paid to whoever registers, okay? With the registration, you have to register within 30 days of your building permit or before you start construction. That's important because we want to be able to provide the advice and the technical assistance and the energy modeling to get you where you need to go to qualify for this program, okay? Once you're enrolled, you have 18 months from that enrollment date to finish your project and have the final assessment completed. So at the bottom of the screen here, you can see we have 3 delivery partners that are going to be working across the province. We have Amerispec, HomeSol, and ThermalWise, and those are the folks you're going to be contacting to book your assessment. Okay, so this customer journey thing is a little wordy, but I'm going to condense it for you. So first one is registering with a service organization. That's those 3 companies that I just talked about, okay? The subsidized enrollment fee they talk about is $199, okay? That's what you're looking at. It's $200 to register a home. So that's the first step. The second is these service organizations take the building plans that you've given them and all the information that they have to work with, and they are building an energy model in something called HOT 2000 that comes through Natural Resources Canada. And it basically builds your whole building, all the walls, the orientations, the windows, the heating system, the water heating, everything you're putting in, even including how many people this home is designed for. And then determining how much energy you're using and how much energy you can potentially save, okay? So once you've decided what you want to build, let's say you're just going to build something to minimum building code, I promise you that's not going to cut it, okay? That's not going to be enough. We've got this new lovely building code with all of the tiers, but if you build to that bottom tier, you're not going to see any rebates out of this program because you're not going to get your bills under $500 a year. Part of that is because the minimum size building, this minimum square footage for these is 500 square feet, okay? Still suitable for some of those additional or accessory dwelling units that we're talking about, right? But something that you can actually pull in. Once you have all your recommendations, okay, and you can work with them. If they say, we want you to do this, we want you to put 5 inches of foam on the outside, say, no, I'm going to build a double wall. That'll work too. And they'll work with you on that, okay? There's also an optional service to have it air tightness tested. Okay, so they put a blower door on to see how well you're doing in terms of the air tightness, because that has a really big impact on how much energy you use. And then once you're all done, they come to site, they check everything that you've done, windows, doors, mechanicals, orientation, all those things, build the final model and send it to Efficiency where they can get it registered and ideally pay you that $25,000 within 2 months. Okay, so that is the overall process. The incentive overview is not screen friendly. But what that's saying is there are two levels of incentive, right? Whether your bill is under $1,000 or under $500, okay? So there's a $15,000 incentive you can get if your bills are a maximum of $1,000, and $25,000 if your bills are a maximum of $500. And that's based on current electrical rates, okay? Again, eligibility, if you're a homeowner or a builder, you can register. If it's over 500 square feet, you can register. You can register up to 5 homes per calendar year under this program as it's structured right now, okay? That way, if there are folks, say, providing affordable homes or backyard suites, and they're putting all this paperwork through, they can do 5 of them, right? And it's intended to be for year-round occupancy, okay? So this isn't a seasonal rental. It isn't aimed to be, you know, an Airbnb on the lake. It is intended to be for year-round occupancy, whatever that looks like for you. There, I did it under time. So, and I'm sure Kaylee's going to say this, but we are going to be wandering once the presentations wrap up. If you have any questions, we have a lot of programming, and I'll answer what I can. Okay. Thanks, folks.
So up next is myself. So you get to hear from me for a little bit. Hi, again, my name is Kaylee Skinner. I am the coordinator of housing and transition supports for the college. What is that, you may ask? That is all of the off-campus housing, transportation resources, cost of living resources, and community engagement resources for our province and all of our campuses. So I help students primarily, but I also help property owners who are considering renting to students figure out where to go for their resources. We wanted to give you a little highlight of NSCC programs because it helps you understand students better when you're considering student rentals. Most of the NSCC programs are fall and winter term, which means September to April, with placements in May and some other co-op terms throughout the summer. NSCC classes are often like a full-time job, 8 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday. Oftentimes, students spend extra time doing classwork and assignments outside of that time period. About 54% of our students in 2024 came with previous post-secondary experience. That could be going to a university, already attending community college, but 54% in 2024. The average age of our students is 26 years old, and international students are choosing NSCC more than ever, with 90% actively planning to stay in Nova Scotia after studies. So what does NSCC do for housing? We have a variety of off-campus housing supports for students designed to help students be good renters, help them build their foundation so that they know residential tenancies law, they know how to respect their property, and what to do when there's maintenance complaints, how to recycle. And they can connect with myself, but also property owners who hear this and say, I want to know more about what students are looking for. I think I want to host an NSCC student. You can also email housing@nscc.ca and get connected with myself or the other housing team, which is my manager of housing and student life, Chauncey Kennedy, to talk more about renting to students. Some other key highlights that I wanted to have before moving forward is the new and first of its kind in the country, NSCC Living in Nova Scotia Guide. It's a 7-module workbook where students can learn, again, all of the details from Nova Scotia culture. Some students coming from New Brunswick or even in Nova Scotia might not know that Cape Breton sometimes gets called Islanders, and people not in Cape Breton get called Mainlanders. Cost of living, so how much do our students actually spend per month to help our students budget better? How to protect themselves when they're in a tenancy, and how to make sure that they're taking care of the property. How to secure and search for accommodations, what they need to prepare, and also the responsibilities in the community and how to engage. After they complete this workbook, they can take a quiz. They pass the quiz. They get sent a letter of completion. So as property owners, if someone sends you a letter of completion for the Living in Nova Scotia Guide, it means that they have been tested on their knowledge of all of these topics. We also have combined all of the considerations we hear from students into one pamphlet for folks. That's going to be at the table in the back with lots for everyone. Please feel free to grab one. It has all of the considerations that students tell me they look for in a rental, which can help you, as a property owner, tailor your rental for students. Happy Pad is at the back, so we don't have them on this slide deck, but we have a partnership with Places for Students where listing is free for property owners and free for students. It is where we direct most of our students to go to immediately. So if you're wanting to list to students, Places for Students is the best tool for you. You can list your property for free yourself, or you can contact Places for Students team and they can help you list it with some assistance from their administrative team. I also want to highlight our new sub-site, our new housing website, where we have a tab that is specifically information for property owners, which answers some of the key questions that I get from property owners across the province and links out to the resources that will help you best. And that is my presentation in a nutshell. Again, my table is at the back. If you want a handout of rental considerations or a business card for Places for Students, or just to talk about student rentals, I would love to have a conversation. I now get the pleasure of introducing Diane McDonald. Diane McDonald has been home sharing. She's been born and raised in rural Nova Scotia, growing up in North Mountain, which is north of Middleton. After 30 years of working in Alberta and Manitoba, she retired to Middleton, where she continues her lifelong practice of home sharing. During her teaching career, she has taught at 4 colleges. Wherever her employment has taken her, she home shared. While teaching in Grand Prairie Regional College, Alberta, she was a member of the advisory board for Home Share Society in the city. Diane has been the Nova Scotia representative for Home Share Canada for the last 10 years. In 2017, the Women's Resource Centre in Annapolis Royal received funding to research Annapolis Valley residents' interest in home sharing. From this 10-month consultation and under the leadership of Tara Webb and comprehensive 193-page home share toolkit was created and distributed to hundreds of home seekers and home providers. Diane and the Rotary Club of Middleton are presently supporting an NSCC researcher, Lisa Mader, who's at the back, in an effort to secure funding for a home share research program for students in 3 NSCC campuses. So Diane has a great lived experience, and I'm excited to welcome Diane to speak to you today.
Good afternoon. Welcome from Middleton, heart of the valley. This is my first time to Yarmouth. What a beautiful community you have here. And it is my pleasure to speak on home sharing. I've been doing it now for 40 years practically, unofficially, but now in the last few years more officially. I'd like to share with you a slide presentation that I have, and I think this is the button. I think that's the right button, that I have borrowed, but it captures very well the purposes of home sharing. The Nova Scotia government estimates that there are 130,000 empty bedrooms in Nova Scotia. And as you drive around the province, and as I drive through the valley in particular, I see these beautiful old homes with these, and I know there are 3, 4, 5, 6 bedrooms in them, and many of them, most of them are unused. What a shame. We need to use our resources. We need to use the space that we have now. And those of us, and most of us, I hope, are concerned about the environment, that if we can find some solutions to lack of housing, and if some of those solutions can be without consuming more energy, without consuming more resources, then I think good for us and good for the environment. And that's where home share kicks in, because we can use much of what we have now. It's not the whole answer, but it's a bit of the answer. So there are many ways, as you've heard this afternoon, that you can provide housing. And home sharing, I'd like to really emphasize the fact that it is home sharing. It's not house sharing, it's home sharing. And if you see our booth down where Lisa is sitting now, I've brought in some flowers and some things to make it look homey, because when a person comes into my house, they come into my home with my dog and my cat and my flowers. And when they come home from work, they come home. They don't just come to a house. So that's very important, I think, in terms of a different kind of concept. To some people, maybe that's not important, but to some people, it is important. And when you're on a limited budget, and many people are, many people on limited budgets are forced to live in really quite unpleasant situations. And so to come to a fairly well organized and complete home environment is a welcome choice for them. Home sharing is the potential to help a wide variety of people and different situations depending on your home and where you're located. There are, the top down is when the government, I think, provides the homes, or perhaps industry will build the homes, but we can also do it from the general public, from people like the people that are here today. Home sharing is unique and very personal. You get to know the people that live in your home, and you get to benefit from it. I want to share one experience that I had when I was in Grand Prairie, and we just established the home sharing service. There was a senior woman who had recently lost her husband, was quite lonely, and she decided to try the home sharing arrangement. And we had a wonderful coordinator at that time who interviewed and matched the home seekers with the home providers. And they arranged in this matching that a young man who had a steady laboring job, a hard-working job, and she would provide meals for him every day when he came home from work, and they would sit down together and have a meal like a family. And this was really good for her because on her own, she probably wouldn't have cooked. And because she had company, she had conversation, she had a reason to cook, and she had a nutritious meal. Now that's the extreme, perhaps, of providing service for your home seeker. Moving along, we think of the next lesson that we could learn, and home sharing works well in supported local groups, provided personalized references. We spoke of references earlier. How do you know who to share a home with? And in particular, today, I'd like to suggest that sharing your home with a student is an excellent way to start. Students, we know, are serious about something, and we've just learned from the previous presentation that they tend to be an average in their mid-20s or older. These are mature people, and they're focused. Another advantage in starting out perhaps with a student is that they have a fixed term. They have a 4-month term and a 4-month term. And if you want your summers off, maybe you're having visitors or family visiting for the summer, you have the advantage of having a free summer and maybe another a student in the fall again. So something to consider in terms of possibly renting to students. And there again, students work hard. Many students have part-time jobs, so when they're not in class, they're working, and when not in class and working, they're sleeping and getting ready for the next day. There are multiple benefits to home sharing, and I like to think of as the home seeker and the home provider. And you can arrange it and individualize your home situation depending on how much you want to be involved. For example, in my home rental situation, I normally provide a toaster oven, a microwave, and a coffee maker in the room. And which they don't need to use my kitchen, which is fine with me. That works okay. But at the same time, if I happen to make, I'm the mother of 3 really big boys, and I'm used to cooking big amounts of food. So if I make a big pot of chili, I quite often share it with the people that live in my house. And they do favors for me. If I buy a big bag of dog food because it's on sale and I can't get it in the house, it's too heavy, then I could ask one of them to bring in the bag of dog food. Because as a senior with some mobility challenges, I sometimes need help. If a light bulb in the ceiling needs replaced, I'm not about to climb up on a ladder, but I could ask one of my home sharing people if they could change the light for me. So it's very complimentary to have a person in my house. They help me and I help them. And we're sharing our home. The core issue is to supply, not demand. There is plenty of demand. We know that housing is one of our greatest concerns. Many people think that the best housing is in private houses or apartments, but actually another advantage is in community. Previously, I taught sociology. I believe very much in social interaction. I believe that we're happiest and healthiest when we interact with each other. And for young people and seniors or people of any age, the more we interact and support each other, the healthier we will be. And the more positive. The health and the security and the sense of community all come with home sharing. We cannot build our way out. Well, we're trying to build our way out, I think, and it's going to cost us a lot of money, cost us a lot of financial money, and again, I worry about the environment. You know, how many trees do we have to cut down? Maybe if we could cut down 10% fewer trees by home sharing, then that would be a step in the right direction. And building new houses is expensive, of course. But it's one of the solutions. It's not for everyone. You have to be a little bit brave and a little bit of a risk taker, but the benefits are wonderful. I have made wonderful friends over the years, and some of the people we're still in contact. I tell the story. I live in a traditional old 2.5-story house, about 125 years old. And it's kind of a nice house, nothing great, but it's an okay house. And it's got a wraparound veranda with shutters. And I looked up a couple of years ago and I saw that my shutters were all faded green. I realized that this is not the house I want to live. I want something brighter. So I decided to have my shutters painted yellow. And one of the men who was living in my house at that time had a steady job, but I asked him if he would be interested in painting my shutters, and he on a part-time basis, and he said yes, he would. So he took down all my shutters, made a painting area on the veranda, and when he came home from work, he would paint some evenings for an hour, sometimes for 2 hours. Sometimes he wouldn't do anything on that particular evening. On a Saturday, he might work half the day on the shutters. And after about 3 weeks, he had all my shutters painted a beautiful bright yellow and installed them back on my house. So I was delighted, and I think the cost to me was much less than if I had hired a contractor. And it was a pretty good deal for him because he could do it at his leisure. He didn't have to drive anywhere or go anywhere. If he wanted to work for 2 hours, he could. If he didn't want to work at all or wasn't able to work one evening, then that was okay with him. So it was a win-win situation. And government at all levels would would do well to remove impediments to home sharing. And I sometimes worry, I did pick up the information from the town of Yarmouth, and you'll have wonderful information about the rules and regulations in sharing, in renting a room in your house. But if my son or if a friend of mine or my auntie or my cousin decided to move in my house, would I have to have all of those regulations? Like I'm not sure that the firewalls and all of that is I have checked with my insurance company, and I've checked again last year with my insurance company. And according to my insurance policy, and you would have to check with your insurance policy as well, I'm allowed to have up to 3 permanent guests in my house or renters in my house. The cost of their or the rent that they pay, of course, goes towards the upkeep of my house, and the taxes and all of the extra expenses that are involved in owning a house. And it's in the interest of our towns to maintain our houses in the best capacity that we can. So hopefully our towns will be flexible, and I know they are becoming more flexible and supportive in terms of how we can make our houses more acceptable to guests, to home seekers. So there are a lot of advantages to home sharing, and this is not unique to the Annapolis Valley. This is not unique to Nova Scotia. Home sharing happens all over the world. In fact, they have conferences every year where people from all over the world compare and share their challenges and successes. So it's something that, especially in Europe and in Asia, home sharing is a way of life. And I would ask you to consider home sharing, especially consider a student, because a student is a great way to start. They've already been screened for you. Another little tip about screening that I like to do if I don't have any other reference is I ask them where they work and how long they've worked there. If they tell me that they've worked at PharmaSave for the last 5 years or 10 years, I think they're and if they like my dog and my dog likes them, then I think that's a pretty good place to start. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I think it is possible that we might have something in common. We might be able to share a house together. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you, everyone. I see everybody's still awake, so that's a good thing. Just here to do some quick closing remarks. Number one is to say thank you all for being here today and for taking the time to truly consider what housing means for Yarmouth. This conversation is more than about buildings. It's about people, community, and the future we're building together. Considerations for housing challenges us to listen, reflect, and act with care. Whether you're a resident, a leader, or a service provider, your role matters, and I hope you feel that authentically today in shaping a more inclusive and secure Yarmouth for all. Let's keep the momentum going. Let's turn today into a real challenge. I wish Mayor Mood was here because she'd give some rah-rahs to go with that. Again, thank you for being a part of this important step. Just some housekeeping. Once I finish, please, we've got some lovely people at the back that have lots of information, can answer your questions. I would just ask kindly, you got some little dots. We have an exit survey over there, and each dot is to a response to a question. We also have a board where you can, if you've got your smartphone, you can go right to our website, Get Involved site, or subscribe to our alertable system. Finally, I'd like to say thank you to all of our contributors. This was a project that has taken 6 months of coordinating with provincial partners, nonprofit partners, everyone that you see in this room. A special thanks to NSCC and their staff, including our ASL interpreters today. And I would also like to special mention to Adiki, who is our volunteer event project coordinator. Thank you again. Have a wonderful evening. Please enjoy. Thank you.